So the 4-year-old who had no problem with Ghostbusters and didn't mind Kubo and the Two Strings at all, didn't find it scary or anything, really didn't like Pete's dragon. And the reason why is that he actually got quite scared in this film. So let me just jump straight to that scene that scared him. Basically, our dragon, beautiful Pete's dragon, who you begin to love and completely adore through the film, towards the end of the film he is captured, and he is captured by being shot with tranquilizer darts. Now the little guy didn't understand, my little guy didn't understand the difference between a tranquilizer dart and I guess a bullet from a gun which is meant to kill. So he got really upset. He thought that Pete's dragon was being killed right in front of him there on the screen, and he found this quite troubling to deal with. So it might be something worth mentioning to you guys, maybe have that conversation with your children beforehand, just purely by coincidence, the difference between shooting an animal for sedation purposes, for example, to perform some kind of medical procedure or something like that, as opposed to hunting and shooting and killing, particularly for sport or for whatever other reason. So that really upset the 4-year-old. There's a couple of other scenes that I do want to mention to you as well. The first one happens right at the beginning of the film. So this is a very abrupt entry into the film. There is a car accident scene. And in this scene, Pete's parents, Pete, of course, who is the hero of the film, his parents are killed in this car accident. Now, I should mention that the scene is very, very well handled. You see the car roll. You know very specifically that the car has, suffered quite a nasty accident, and you do understand that it is fatal. You know that Pete's parents have been killed. You don't see any dead bodies. You don't see anybody being hurt. You certainly don't see any blood or gore. So don't worry too much about that. But there's the idea of, this child becoming an orphan and losing his parents. So this might be upsetting for some kids. The other kind of violent scene happens toward the end of the film. It takes place on a bridge, and the bridge looks like it's going to collapse. You see cars flying over the bridge, and there are occupants inside one of the car. These occupants we do have a relationship with by the end of the film, and it's upsetting. Again, we feel that there's more deaths have occurred close to Pete. And this is a little bit upsetting until we, of course, find out that they are okay. So through the rest of the film, I wouldn't call too much of it violent. There's a few little things happen, like there's a boy is chased and grabbed, you see a child fall out of a tree, these kind of things. Again, I wouldn't call them violent, but they're things that might be a little bit, upsetting for a child, particularly if they've had a recent fall and scraped their knee or that kind of thing. In fact, there is actually a knee scrape in the film. Again, you don't see any injury or blood detail on this scraped knee, you just see some torn denim. Other things that might be worth mentioning though is that there is a couple of hospital scenes, and in these scenes you do see sick children. So you see a child with a plaster cast, you see a child undergoing a medical examination, and you also see someone fall off a hospital stretcher. So again, the hospital thing can be uncomfortable for some kids and some families. But as I said, not really any blood or gore in the film. So I just want to mention again about when this dragon is captured. When he is captured, he's put on a flatbed truck and he's chained down. And again, this is something, the idea of being chained, being held down, being restrained, which I saw my kids get a little bit uncomfortable with. They didn't like that idea of a dragon, this beautiful pet dragon being tied up. So let me move on to sex and nudity. There isn't any sex or nudity anywhere in the film. Obviously, our boy hero, Pete, is shirtless through a lot of the film because he is living in the jungle, in the woods, well not jungle, woods, out in the scrub. So he isn't exactly fully clothed, but yes, certainly nothing offensive there in terms of sex or nudity. Alcohol and drugs, there's no alcohol anywhere in the film. And the only kind of drug reference is once the dragon is sedated and you're shot by these darts, or these, sedative darts, when he starts to wake up, he's a little bit groggy. So he's not quite all there. He's a little bit unsteady on his feet. So that's the only drug-related reference in the film. And offensive language, there isn't any swearing. There's no profanity anywhere in the film. But there's a couple of little references. One guy, when referring to a redheaded woman, goes, "Oh, redheads." And she's also ridiculed by another man out of her earshot, where a man says that, she is stepping on her husband's toes. So there's a slight little bit of misogyny there, but again, it's very mild. There certainly isn't any really offensive attacks or you know, all kind of any language used in the film. Now, the way the film is sort of plays out is very much old-fashioned kind of storytelling. It's very simple, it's very gentle, it's very beautiful. This is probably one of the easiest films to watch, one of the most family-friendly films I've seen in a very long time. There's no complex plot or storytelling, but at the same time, it really does capture human emotions beautifully. I mean, just, it's hypnotizing. It's beautiful the way it speaks to children and it speaks about family. One of the things I do really like about it is, for me, the whole relationship between Pete and his dragon and his new kind of, I guess, adopted family it was a beautiful metaphor for fostering. It was a metaphor for accepting people into our home, for children that may not be your own children, for adoption, for blended families. I personally found there was a lot going on here about family and the different types of family constructions that we have in our society. And, you know, particularly if you are from a family where you have stepbrothers and stepsisters and you know, just different people that come and go through the family, here's a beautiful opportunity to talk about those themes, to talk about, you know, how we can all be different, but we can all sort of come together, particularly, you know, we can sort of love each other in different ways. So, you know, perhaps that's a talking point that you might take out of it. I loved Pete's Dragon. I thought it was just so beautifully shot and so beautifully put together. I do hope you enjoy it as well, and I do hope you take all the family. If you want to know a little bit more about some of the content, then check out the website, which is cinemum.net.